One major aspect and sign of reaching a higher vision and of being sincere in your inner work is when you stop only seeing evil and darkness in others and the world out there. You don't deny evil either, which would be spiritual bypassing, but you stop assuming and projecting that only other people are conduits for dark entities, Ahrimanic and Luciferic spirits, Wetiko, and hostile forces. Instead, you begin to see how these forces also influence you. You become more aware of your own shadow and the many entry points where these forces tag in and manipulate you. You realize that you too are a conduit for non-physical forces and that the real battle is not just out there, but within and through you. This is also when you stop using spirituality as an escape or as a way to build a spiritual identity that feeds the ego and masks your insecurity and unresolved wounds. This visceral realization can be a shock and very humbling, but it's a critical threshold known to all true esoteric traditions. It's what Gurdjieff referred to as coming face to face with the horror of the situation, seeing your mechanical nature, the forces that operate through you, and ultimately facing the evil and darkness within, rather than denying it or projecting it outward. This goes straight to the heart of shadow work, a practice that's often been very oversimplified and distorted in many spiritual circles. Anyone who only sees how entities operate in others, but not in themselves, or even claim they are unaffected by these beings, is a big red flag. Going even deeper, if you haven't faced the potential for evil within yourself, you will become an unwitting instrument of evil, Wetiko, and occult forces, while lying to yourself that you are awake, virtuous, and moral, projecting everything onto the other. This only strengthens the very hostile forces you believe you're fighting, as Sri Aurobindo also pointed out. It makes you less effective in truly confronting evil. Furthermore, the ego mind and the thought injections of occult forces tagging into you, which you mistake for your thoughts, will justify the projections and denial, convincing you that you couldn't possibly be a conduit for hostile forces acting through you, and it's always the other out there. As Carl Jung noted, none of us stands outside humanity's black collective shadow. Whether the crime occurred many generations back or happens today, it remains the symptom of a disposition that is always and everywhere present. And one would therefore do well to possess some imagination for evil. For only the fool can permanently disregard the conditions of his own nature. In fact, this negligence of facing his own darkness is the best means of making him an instrument of evil. Harmlessness and naivety are not very helpful. On the contrary, they lead to the projection of the unrecognized evil into the other. This strengthens the opponent's position in the most effective way, as the projection carries the fear that we involuntarily and unconsciously feel for our own evil over to the other side, considerably increasing the formidability of their threat. What is even worse, our lack of insight into our darkness deprives us of the capacity to deal with evil. We spoke about this topic in our recent podcast with Gigi Young.
We all have Ahrimanic entities that seek to work through us. We all have Luciferic entities that constantly seek to take control. And the more that you do work your eye and get into connection with that, the more you can see those forces in yourself, the more you can see them in the world, right? It's like if you're not...
No, thank you so much, Gigi, for pointing that out, because I've seen so many people get in this topic and then they see entities everywhere in somebody else. Everybody's possessed, everybody's conduit for these forces, but not themselves, right? Mm-hmm. But you're right, if you're sincere in the inner work, you see how these forces also work through you, tempt you, or kind of influence you without you knowing, right?
And then you're in the world, but not of it, where you can see these things around people and you're like, you relate to it. You're like, yeah, I've been there and I might be there now. And you're humble. And that humbleness is so important for vision, for clear vision. The moment that you think that everybody else is like, possessed and whatever, but like you're not, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
And then, ironically, AI is not causing humbleness at all. It's causing a lot of ego, inflation, and specialness. And you can see the Luciferic energy of people feeling like they're a god or special. So it's creating the opposite for people spiritually, while at the same time, people think that it's helping people spiritually develop. So I even think understanding Lucifer and how it can kind of interact with a new age spiritual path and create this spiritual grandiosity, I think is really key, actually, which is not what a lot of people want to hear, because they want to hear, no, I'm an awakened starseed and I'm here to wake up the planet.
Yeah.
They want to hear, it kind of tags into this sense of specialness too.
And escapism, and Lucifer is the force that just leads you towards escapism and delusion.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing there too, is an escapist. You know, a lot of people go to spirituality to escape.
Yes.
And then they fall into delusion. That's like the pattern.